BeTheTalk, episode 306, featuring Gauri Angrish. Welcome to BeTheTalk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Gauri Angrish. Gauri, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready, Nathan. Thank you.
Gauri Angrish is the founder and CEO of CAREDOSE, a MedTech venture in New Delhi, India. She received 2 patents. She's a certified NASDAQ Milestone Maker and a Forbes Asia Top 30 Under 30 honoree for healthcare and science in 2018. Gauri Angrish, welcome to the talk.
Thank you so much for having me, Nathan.
Well, your talk is called What If You Fly? And it comes from that quote, what if you fall? But then on the other hand, what if you fly? And you spoke in an event where the theme was the butterfly effect. And it sounded like you were a really big fan of Ashton Kutcher. So please, Gauri, take us behind the talk.
So I think the Ashton Kutcher part can be ignored. But other than that, so when I got the invite to speak at a TEDx event, it was definitely one of my bucket list. But to be honest, the first thought, as I have with a lot of things which are out of my comfort zone, is that I don't want to do it because, I have this underlying thing which I feel a lot of us have. And so I decided to make my talk about that because I feel any one of us who is trying to achieve something out of the ordinary or, out of our comfort zone always has an underlying thought which tells them that, you might fail or you might fall. And it's always those people who, make the effort of taking that one step forward and thinking, what if I fly and give it a shot? That's what I think helps you push the boundaries. I've always tried to do that. Public speaking is something which I have been nervous about for years. I've been happy that I'm a tech CEO, so I'm always in the background. But this year, thanks to the TED Talk, I decided to put myself out there. I think it was a great experience for me, and hopefully I was able to inspire at least a few more minds to be able to do the same.
Yeah, I'm sure you absolutely did. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your company as well. I mean, what kind of services do you do, and how did you start that, and how does that really relate to the talk?
Sure. So CAREDOSE is a MedTech venture, as you said. The big problem we're solving is that of medicine non-adherence. So what I mean is that people who take medication on a daily basis, they end up not adhering or not taking their medication exactly as prescribed. So I was actually working in McKinsey in the pharmaceutical and medical device vertical. And that's where I realized that medicine non-adherence is a huge problem. What was exciting for me to understand was that it's not just a problem for patients, but it actually impacts each and every stakeholder in the healthcare industry. Pharmaceutical manufacturers end up losing a lot of potential revenue. Providers, again, lose a lot of revenue and retention. Doctors have absolutely no clarity with respect to if the patients are taking the medication, all of that. So I decided that I needed to come up with a solution which was comprehensive. And to be honest, it has a lot to do with my talk because, like I said, I've always been sort of a nerd. I love being in the background. I had no business experience. I'm a biotechnologist by education. And suddenly I decided to do this venture. So my first step of quitting a very comfortable corporate job and putting myself out there was, again, taking a step which it was completely out of my comfort zone. Secondly, setting up a tech venture when I am not a technologist at all. Like I understand nothing about hardware and software. I happen to be great at writing logic, but that's about it. So I think all of these things was linked to a dream that I wanted to do. And I always had this underlying thing that I may not be able to do it. But it's just that waking up every day and making sure that you push yourself forward. Today, CAREDOSE, I'm very proud to say that I have 2 co-founders. We're a team of 15 people, which are a bunch of tech people. And we're already working. We launched this Jan in 2018, and we're already working with not just 2 of the biggest private healthcare companies in India, but we've partnered with WHO, Clinton Health, and USAID to manage tuberculosis patients through public health with the government of India. So it's just great to see that we've reached here, and it's all, with respect to pushing yourself forward.
Well, you're a 30 under 30 honoree for this year, and you started the business this year. Is this from this CAREDOSE, or is this from a prior venture, or this is your first time out of the chute?
No, it is from CAREDOSE, and we launched this year. But to be honest, we started our development in 2016.
Okay.
And therefore, I've been involved in the healthcare industry, and there's been a little buzz about us. So I think that's where the Forbes people sort of picked me up from.
Wow. Well, I mean, what a tremendous honor. What amazing competition is there in the space. And I know this, Talk Universe, this, that I come from a very healthcare oriented family. So this, non-adherence, people forgetting to take their pills or not being able to, is a huge issue. And yes, it affects the entire chain. You want to talk about systems? This system jacks the whole thing up when we're not taking the meds that we should. So, man, that sounds great. And I think there are going to be a couple of people in my immediate family that will be of interest to your company. So we're going to be back in just a moment with Gauri Angrish. We're going to pivot over to you, Talk Universe, and we are going to be in just a moment over in the Blitz round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be the Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And we're back with the Blitz round. We are here with Gauri Angrish. I'm going to ask her a series of either or questions related to the preparation and performance of her recent talk. Gauri, are you ready?
Sure.
All right.
Ready to go.
Now, you already answered the first one. You were invited to speak, correct?
Yes.
Now, being invited to speak, you've got this busy, startup company. You've got everything else. How did you carve out the time? How did you, was it a temptation to prioritize other things as important as this talk is just because you were invited to speak, or was that not as much a problem for you?
To be completely honest, coincidentally, it fell on the first day of the holiday I was taking after like 2 years. So it was very easy to push the holiday one day back,
Okay.
I think all entrepreneurs are used to that.
Well, great. So, so it cost you a day of, of vacation. Okay. Well, in terms of your preparation, Gauri, are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I really try to be a memorizer. I freeze on stage, and therefore I'm an improviser.
Okay. And, what's a tip, tool, or technique that helped you?
So this comes from personal experience. A tip that really helps is that I get extremely nervous when I'm going up on stage. So one thing I've learned is when I go there, I literally take a deep breath and, just sort of forget that I have to follow a script. At the end of the day, you know what you need to talk about. So if you forget that, you can just flow into it.
Absolutely. So, were you an opener? Were you a closer, or were you in between?
I was in between. In between.
Any advice for the other in-betweeners?
I think it's important to make your talk not super serious. I think the best was that I linked up a little bit of humor and a little bit of my own life experiences, which were pretty humorous. That helps because, that keeps people engaged.
This is the cut for time question, Gauri. What was the most painful part of your talk that you had to cut out?
I think a lot of experiences that we've gone through in CAREDOSE, any entrepreneur would agree that it's like being a part of a movie, and the same day you have the worst moment and the best moment. So I had to cut off some of the candid moments because you didn't want to make it too lengthy. And just, how involved my co-founders have been in my story. I think I couldn't talk more about that. They've been extremely impactful.
Here's the, my favorite question to ask. What was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before you spoke?
It was during, and anyone who sees the talk can easily point it out. I just randomly froze for a minute. I did not speak. So for me, it was really funny because I think I was having an internal dialogue with myself. So it took me like a minute to just like snap out of it. But that was really strange because I could see the audience just staring at me that, is this a part of the talk or not? So I think that was strange, but it was an experience. I think I'm becoming better or trying to.
Oh, you absolutely are. And, all of us that have been up on that stage, we can all relate to that. How did you get out of it? How did you realize, from the reaction that, oh my gosh, I'm getting in my head too much, and then you re-engaged, or was it something else? Or
to be very honest, I had a couple of friends in the audience who just gave me the look of death. So I think it was that which like snapped me out of it. But it was just a moment of like, I think I got too into it. I started like getting nervous. So I needed to just snap out and start with absolutely everything, not look at the script, not think about anything. And I think that's what helped.
That's interesting because I think most people, they feel the pressure when they first walk on stage and they lean into that anxiety, and then things get more and more comfortable from there. But I've interviewed some other people, fewer people, but it is familiar to me that sometimes the pressure kind of creeps up on you when you're on there, and it can be really easy not to be present anymore and let that kind of gang up on you. So.
And if I can just add one thing, I think it's also about the time, I think I just looked at the clock and I realized that I have like 4 minutes more or something like that. And I think that just got to me that, I have a lot to say, but little time.
Yeah. Well, we've been enjoying this blitz round with Gauri Angrish. Her talk is called What If You Fly? And if you want to find out more about that, you can go to our Be The Talk webpage at BeTheTalk.com. In the show notes, we'll have a link to her talk. We'll also have a link to Gauri's LinkedIn profile, and you can find out about CAREDOSE, and you can find out about all of her awards and other things that she is involved in from connecting with her on LinkedIn. And we're going to be back with Gauri Angrish in just a moment for the final word of advice. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted. And we're back. It's time for the final word of advice with Gauri Angrish. What is it?
I think my final word of advice is that the biggest project we all have is ourselves. And I really think that evolution is the only step forward. Everyone has their own trajectory, so there's nothing else we need to follow except what we need to do for ourselves. The best part starts outside the comfort zone. And so it's okay to be outside that. And even if there's a voice telling you that if you fail or if you fall, it's fine even if you do, because sometimes you fly and that changes your world.
Gauri Angrish, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
Thank you so much, Nathan. It was lovely speaking to you.
Thanks for listening to Be The Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.